Here I will be addressing the problem with Ed's rhetoric and messaging as a whole based on his latest YouTube video. I will mention examples of the specific problems, what it implies, and the problems with it. Firstly, the most obvious and biggest issue is that he does not convey what veganism means or what it's about, the definition or the objective of veganism. After a conversation of almost 30 minutes, the participants leave without being close to understanding what they actually were meant to talk about. Secondly, Ed is quite disproportionately using welfarist and utilitarian vocabulary, like meat eater, plant-based diet, food, harm, suffering, death, and kill, over words conveying veganism. The only time he mentions exploitation, which is the word that summarizes the problem according to veganism, is in the context of him explaining that other animals sometimes exploit other animals. This rhetoric implies that it's okay to exploit animals as long as it doesn't harm them, cause suffering, or death. Due to all the food and eating talk, it also reinforces the false perception of veganism being a diet like vegetarianism and not an ethical principle. At the end of the video, he also says to the debaters, ethically we're on the same page, while he hasn't even mentioned what veganism actually is. Not even close. The totality of this misinformation or lack of proper vegan messaging reinforces the wrong perception of this very important and well-defined justice movement. If we truly respect the movement, its cause, and the victims veganism seeks to emancipate, we ought to respect its definition and purpose in order to be good advocates for the movement. We have to stop twisting and diluting the vegan message, whether it's explicit or implicit, by not being clear about what it's about. The perception of veganism being something as trivial as a diet, a set of practices, or utilitarian calculations causes problems in the form of ridiculing its urgency and severity for the victims. It shouldn't be something to test and try for fun or for your own benefit where you suddenly stop. Say it wasn't for you, then drag veganism through the mud with a ridiculous "my ex-vegan" story. It should focus on the fact that you have no right to exploit someone else, their life or body. Misinformation leads to us having to spend a lot of time cleaning up the misinformation and symptoms of it. So what is veganism about in a nutshell? Veganism is the ethical principle that humans should live without exploiting animals, and the objective is to stop the exploitation of animals by humans. The root problem is the mentality, the human supremacist and oppressive mindset that views animals as slaves, resources, commodities, and property for them to use, regardless of suffering, harm, pain, and death. It's not about how we exploit animals, which is welfarist, but rather that we exploit them, which is abolitionist. Everything else are symptoms of the root issue we need to tackle. Veganism is a deontic stance because it relies on a principle and not a set of practices or outcome. From this principle, actions will naturally flow. Ed has a lot more responsibility in regards to his rhetoric due to his large following, and I think he should be held accountable for that, just like we should hold non-vegans accountable for their exploitation of animals.